Hey everyone, welcome to Geekettes Chat. I am Shirley, and this is Geekettes Chat Reading Corner, where I, Shirley, review books that I'm reading. It might take months. It is going to take months to review them. I'm a slow reader. I need timers, okay? I'm sorry. That's just how I read. That is my method. And so anyways, I'm always in my head and, blah, blah, blah. A lot of things go in my head, so I overthink. So anyways, we are here to review a book that I'm excited to read. I'm excited to read. I have read. And I got this as a Christmas gift from my sister Christy. Okay, I don't know what to do. Cemetery Boys by Adrian Thomas. Woo! We're going to get into it. But first, I want to say some announcements. Basically, we haven't done, for 2 weeks now, Geekettes Chat videos. Because a family tragedy happened on my mother's side of the family. And we were just emotionally, physically drained. And we didn't want to do anything. Also out of respect for the family. We just didn't want to do videos. So, we are back. It is February. It is Black History Month. It is also Valentine's Day on February 14th. Yes. Oh, I forgot that. And we are having a lot of videos coming up for February. We have, of course, today I'm reviewing Cemetery Boys. And then for February 5th, which is this Friday, we are having the best romantic scenes. Not best romantic movies. We were going to do that, but we were like, scratch that. Me and my sister were like, Christy, who does the show with me, she was like, well, let's not do it. Let's do best romantic scenes. Because we were like, oh, they have that in action movies. And they have that in horror movies and sci-fi movies. So that way we could choose. And it just doesn't have to be romantic movies. Because yes, there are romantic scenes in those different genres of films. So we are excited about that. It's coming out on Friday, February 5th. Yes, this Friday. And then the next review video is going to be for the film To All the Boys I Ever Loved. Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I always mess up that title. It's Always and Forever. It's the third in the series. It is on Netflix. And it's coming out February 12th. And our review is going to come out that day. It's also Lunar New Year as well. And we're excited. It's the third film. I really thought the first one was really good. The second one, I didn't really like it. So I'm still excited for the third. I want to see how it ends. I think that's the last book. Because it's a book series. And my sister tried to read the first one. And Christy told me that she couldn't get into it. I don't know why. Maybe her mindset was somewhere else. And again, I'm just assuming. So I don't know. But yeah, for some reason she couldn't get into it. I would still like to read those books though. And I think the third one's the last one. The final chapter? I think so. But anyways, we're going to review that February 12th. It's going to be up on the same day. Yes. We're going to be watching that in the morning. So yeah, and then we're going to do a review for Love and Basketball. Gina Prince Bythewood's classic film. I think it was one of her first films that she directed. I think so. But that's coming later in February. I don't know what I'm going to review for book-wise for Geekettes Chat Reading Corner. It could be Frankenstein. It could be Dracula. I'm taking months to read those books. I'm sorry. Old English is just killing me right now. I'm sorry. It's not a detriment to those books. I know they're classics, but I don't know. It's just a struggle. Or it might be Jane Eyre, because I have not read that yet. And I got that 2 Christmases ago, I think, from my sister. And I have not gotten into it, because I just didn't pick it up. I have so many books, and it's I haven't read them yet. They're back here. And Witchwood, which is another book I probably will review. I have got that, birthdays ago, and I didn't review it. So anyways, let's get into Cemetery Boys by Adrian Thomas. This is a YA fantasy, own voices, Latinx, queer, and trans representation book. Latinx trans representation book. Let's get into the plot. I was about to say synopsis. So the plot is basically Adriel. You know me and names. Yadriel. Woo! The main character. They are from the LA, California community. What is LEA? I don't know. They're from LA, Los Angeles, California. I think so. They said East LA. Could be totally wrong. And they are from that community. They're also from the Brujex community, and the Brujex community, of course, with the language of like Spanish, it's very traditional. We have masculine and feminine, so of course we have very traditional gender roles as well in the community. You know, the gender roles in the Latinx community, the woman cooks and cleans, and the man, you know, just goes and works most of the time. You know, those gender roles. Sadly, that they're still really there in the community, but you know, you try to push back on it. So Yadriel is a transgender teenage boy, and they want to prove to their family that they are a brujo as well, but because of the traditional Brujex traditions, they didn't want him or Yadriel to do the, you know, to become a brujo, to become part. You know how they have like those things of like almost like a quince. I think it's called quince in the book to say, hey, I'm a brujo to this community. They didn't let Yadriel do it. So Yadriel's like, scratch that. I'm gonna do it myself. I'm gonna do my own brujo tradition. So basically, in this world building, the Brujex community from Yadriel's family, his world, is that the brujos, they, you know, guide and release the spirits to the afterlife. And the brujas basically heal them. So the brujos have like these bortes. Bortes is like, they have these knives, I think, or yeah, it's knives. And then the brujas have these rosaries. Yes, because they're the healers. Yes. Sorry about that. So something happened. So when the night that Yadriel with their cousin Marixa, who's so cool, we'll get into the characters, is like, okay, I'm gonna do my own brujo ritual. Let's go. Let's do this. And Marixa's like, I got your back. Let's go. And that night, sadly, this primo is killed, and they feel that. They feel when somebody dies, especially in their community. So he's like, Yadriel's like, all right, let's do it. Let's figure out what happened to our primo, to our cousin. But when he tries to summon a spirit, thinking that summon, you know, Miguel, the primo, who just recently deceased, Yadriel actually summons the the resident bad boy from his high school, from him and Marixa's, from Yadriel and Marixa's high school, Julian Diaz. And Julian Diaz is like, nah, man, you gotta help. Yadriel wants to like release Julian Diaz, and Julian's like, no, man, Yadriel, you summon me, you have to help me finish this life unfinished business stuff, you know, that thing. And then maybe then I'll let you release me. So it's basically like a crime drama, a mystery, a romance between Yadriel and Julian, you know, bubbling romance between teenage boys, and then Marixa, like, you know, doing her thing, like having their backs and trying to figure out as well. So yeah, about the connection between Julian and Miguel and why they both died the same night and what is going on. Like, is there a connection right there? And how can Yadriel help not only Julian, but of course help his cousin, his primo, to find out what happened, why they both died. Is there a connection there, and all that stuff. So yes, it is kind of like an adventure through like East LA and all that. So, and I loved this book. It was so good. It was so fun. The world building of the Brujex community, talking about Dia de los Muertos and the traditions, which is real life, was so beautiful, because I got to see a little bit more Dia de los Muertos, and what's it about and what the traditions are, and that was great. That was beautiful to see. As well as just like getting what you know, Yadriel is trying to not only prove to themselves, but also to prove to Yadriel's family, like saying like, I'm a brujo too, to like stomp out all these traditional roles. Yadriel is trying to say, to prove to to their family, like, we can move forward with the Brujex community if we just grow and make new rules, and and let people from all, like, who are different in a sense, be in the Brujex community, and show who they are, and let them be who they are, because they're just as amazing as you, and all that stuff. You don't have to just keep these traditional roles. These traditional roles are made to grow or to break or anything like that in life, because people are different, people are unique, that's what makes us amazing. So Yadriel is not only trying to prove to himself, he's trying to prove to the family that we can grow. I am a brujo, just like you a brujo, you are a brujo or bruja in this Brujex community, in this family. And so it's beautiful. It's a self-discovery book for Yadriel. I love self-discoveries when you're trying to figure out stuff. As an adult, I'm still figuring out stuff about myself. As I'm in my 30s, I'm figuring out things about, like, what my gender or non-gender or things like that, pronouns, she, they, them, that's how I, that's my pronouns, or like, from, like, I figured out now, like, from the asexual community as well, that's for me, I figured that out in my 30s, young girls figuring it out, in their teens and all that stuff. You figure this out in different ages of your life, and that is okay, and I love just seeing that and stuff like that. So yes, I love the world building. Yadriel, I felt a kingship, because Yadriel had anxiety, felt tension in his shoulders. That is me. Just trying to prove themselves to people, trying to find, fight back against transgender, discrimination, or the talking about the dead name stuff. I love the fact that Adrian Thomas didn't mention Yadriel's dead name at all, because it's only something that the Yadriel, as a trans max Latinx teenage boy, they're the only ones that they could say what their name is. The trans community can only say what their dead name is if they want to. Nobody else should, say it. So I love that Adrian didn't mention the name, and all that stuff. But, the grandmother would mention, "You're my little girl," and all that stuff. It's the family kind of accepts him, Yadriel, to a point, but not fully understands. And I think that's the thing. A lot of people talking about how Yadriel, going back to what, Yadriel in this book, self-discovery, and trying to prove to not only Yadriel, but also to their family that I am a brujo, I belong in this Brujex community, accept me, the family to accept Yadriel and who Yadriel is. And I think a lot of the transgender community have to deal with the emotional stress and struggles of taking on the guilt of not only their family or people around in society who are, like, misgender them, or mispronouns, or use the wrong pronouns, or use their dead name, and then taking on that guilt because that person would be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and all that stuff, and like, no, in the transgender community, the people would be like, no, it's okay. And so they take on so much from the family and from people, society and stuff, emotional stress and the struggles, they have to deal with every day. And they just want, of course, people to accept them and accept their pronouns and all that stuff. And so yes, I wanted to go back to it because it was so very important in this book of the self-discovery that Yadriel goes through. Of course, let me get into the characters, because that's what I was going to talk about. The characters. Yadriel, I loved, because Yadriel was stressed. Yadriel had tension in the shoulders. Yadriel was just going through everything and just trying to caring and caring for the primo and caring for Julian and just wanting to help and being there for people, being for the family and not making mistakes, but making mistakes because, that happens, of course, as a teenager, but as a human being as well. Julian, I loved Julian because that disaster boy energy. But Julian cared about people. He cared deeply about family, friends, and never asking for anything in return. Just being there for them and, never asking for anything. So I love the relationship and the bubbling, something like that. The relationship that was coming to me, the bubbling relationship. There you go. I think I said it right. Of, the romance and everything, how cute it was, and how they bring out the best in each other. Like, Yadriel was more, spontaneous and did things out of you just being around Julian because he's excited, all that stuff, and Julian, because being around Yadriel was more calmer, more patient in the sense of like thinking things through and practicality and all that stuff, a practical sense. And well, that's what I got from the book. Marixa was a great cousin. She was the best, because she's a bruja, but she doesn't want to do it in the traditional sense as well, because you have to use sacrificial blood of animals, and of course Marixa is a vegan and she's not going to do that, so she tries to fight against traditional roles as well as a bruja, and I thought that was great. And Marixa always has Yadriel's back, is always correcting family members or anybody who uses Yadriel's dead name or misgender, mispronouns Yadriel as well. And so she's ride or die with Yadriel, and I love that. I love how everybody, especially Julian and his friends, talk about his friends, because they're ride or die for each other because they only have each other. It's that found family aspect, which I really love, because it's like they also mention, and Adrian writes in the book about how like a lot of these kids go missing and they only have each other because Julian's friends are very like, they only have each other. They're not really with their family because of things, because a lot of the kids are transgender or queer teenagers, and so their family doesn't accept them or all that stuff, or there's other issues as well, so they only have each other, or they live by themselves in the streets and stuff, and a lot of these kids go missing, sadly. And it talks about that, and it mentions that how these queer kids from queer kids of color or queer kids, teenagers, go missing, and they don't have resources or people supporting them in a sense. And people in society or like media or the cops or anything like that who's supposed to help don't really care for them and let them be, and don't really give them the help or resources that they need, or they put them in prison. Because that's what, just put them in prison, that's all what we do, and all that stuff. We have that struggle in our society, especially when we deal with people of color or queer people of color. Our society, cops or like mental health, places don't know how to literally really help with people, and and they just stick them in prisons or something like that. Or people who have disabilities, they don't know how to help them as well, and they stick them in prison. It's so messed up, everything that goes on, and so sad and terrible, and just makes you angry, so Adrian mentions that. Yes, I love the characters. I just love the world building. It's so great. Yeah, I think that's all I was going to mention. I really love this book. I read it, please. Latinx rap, Latinx queer, Latinx transgender, representation all around. It is a really damn good book. Just everything about it was just so endearing as well. And I cared about the characters, which is like a number one thing. I have to care about the characters in the first few pages to be like, all right, I see where this book is going. I am loving it and stuff like that. Because if I don't care about the characters, then yeah, it goes out the window. The book, it's like, oh man, and you want to love it, but it's like, damn. But yes, I love this book. It was so good. Check it out. Cemetery Boys by Adrian Thomas. I actually pre-ordered Adrian Thomas' next book that's coming out in March. Lost in Neverwood. I think that's the title. I hope that's the title. That is their next book. I think it's kind of like a reimagining of Peter Pan, but it's in Wendy's point of view in a sense, and it's different in the sense of like Wendy has to look for all these boys that are going missing in think around Portland. I could be totally wrong. Or is it Oregon? Ooh, I forgot. But yeah, the boys are going missing. She has to figure that out and stuff, Wendy. So it's the interesting cover. It's beautiful. It's like purple and stuff. And yeah, I'm excited to get it in March. And of course, can't wait. I'm also going to review those Old Guard Tales Through Time books that are coming in April. I pre-ordered the first issue. I'm excited for that. Those reviews going to come in April as well. Lost in the Neverwoods when it comes out. That's probably going to be April because I'm getting it in the end of March because it comes out in the end of March. That's going to be April. Probably the Old Guard Tales Through Time graphic novels is going to be probably the first issue is going to be in the beginning of May because that's the end of April as well that I'm getting it. So let's see. Yeah, so those will be the next ones through that months. So yeah, thank you for watching. Check this book out, please. Subscribe, like to Geekettes chat. Yeah, so peace.